Hi, this will be a short video on jQuery. This will be an introduction to jQuery. So, what the heck is jQuery? Well, jQuery is a JavaScript library that is kind of just full of helper functions that let you do all the things that you want to do easier than they would be without, some help, right? Doing it in vanilla JavaScript. Their tagline here, I'm on the jQuery site right now, so you can go to jQuery.com, right? And this is their logo there, and their tagline is "Write less, do more," which after you use jQuery a little bit, I find that this is very accurate. I find I write a lot less code and I do get a lot more done, right? There is sort of a I don't know if there's a sentiment in the JavaScript community that jQuery is kind of outdated and bloated or stuff like that. I think it's a little unfair. I think jQuery does exactly what it should be doing. jQuery does what JavaScript should do by itself. A lot of the features, a lot of the stuff overlaps with some of the basic JavaScript stuff, but the way it's done in jQuery makes it like really easy to use. So I find it's a really great helper. And a lot of the tools that shun jQuery actually include their own minified version or subset of jQuery. So, everything uses this, right? This is a really great tool. Don't let the naysayers knock it, right? But then again, if you want to write vanilla JavaScript, you can do that too. Anyway, how do you use jQuery? Well, first of all, you either need to download it and link it to or import it into your HTML project, or load it from the content delivery network, over the internet into your project. So you can do one or the other. To go get jQuery, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Download jQuery button here. I'll click it. And then this is a page that kind of gives you like a bunch of information about downloading jQuery and different ways that you can do it. This first link right here in the list, it says download the compressed production jQuery 3.1, right? And if you click on this, this is the source code for jQuery. It looks a little funky here because it's been minified, which means they've just essentially replaced all the variable names with letter names and removed all the spaces and line returns in the white space, right? But this is the whole of jQuery. It's pretty crazy there, right? It's actually not that big though, right? If you want the uncompressed one, you can go to this link and then you can read the jQuery code yourself and see what it looks like, and we can see that it's just basically vanilla JavaScript. So what I'm going to do is, and this is the way I like to work with it, you can download this file here and then link to it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the link off of this link right here. So I'll right click on it and copy link, and then I'll go to my HTML file. I actually don't even have one yet. Let's make one. So I'll save this to the jQuery folder. I'll call it index.html, and then you can set up your HTML document here. Right, so I'll do that. Like title, oops. And then I need a body tag. Oops. Body, there we go, right? So that didn't take too long. And what I'm going to do, and you can link to it in the head of your document or at the bottom of the body tag. I just like to put all my scripts at the bottom of the body tag. I don't know, call me old school, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the source attribute here, and I'll paste the link here, okay? So with this script tag, we will be loading jQuery, version 3.1.1, okay? And then from there, you can work with your jQuery, right? So let's do just one simple thing with jQuery. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make maybe I'll just make an H1 here with a bunch of question marks in it. And what we'll do is we'll just set the text in this tag. you'll click on it with the mouse, and then it'll change the text here to something else. Okay, so we'll just do a simple JavaScript action there, but this time using jQuery. Okay, so how does jQuery work? Well, essentially, when you load the jQuery library, everything in JavaScript is global. So any code that's loaded with this library, if we're going to access it, it's actually going to be attached to a global variable. Okay. And jQuery uses the $sign. So actually this is a valid name for a variable. This is our variable. It's got the jQuery code in it. And jQuery is actually just a function. So we'll call a function off of this. And this function can take several different kinds of parameters. One of the parameters it takes is a string. And the string can be any CSS selector that you can imagine. So for example, if I was writing my style sheet, I could access the h1 tag by typing in h1. So this $sign here will select all the h1s on my page. Okay, and then if I wanted to do something with that h1, like for example, I wanted to add a click event to it, jQuery has a bunch of helper methods. When you're using JavaScript, you can do add event listener for a click, and you can set that up. This is a shorthand version for add event listener with a click action. Okay, so what I'll do, or for a click event, so I'll say, jQuery select the h1, add a click action to it, and then what we'll do is we'll use a closure to handle the click. Okay, so that's kind of a short version of our click event, right? And when we have a click event, maybe we want to change the text inside this element here, and then we can write our code. Now, we could do this. We could say h1 again and just run another selector, and then say, in JavaScript, you have the inner HTML property to set the text within a tag. jQuery just shortens that to HTML. Okay? So I'll do hello world there, right? And let's give it a test, right? So we'll save this. I'll go get it off my desktop here. I put it in this jQuery folder. I'll just load it to this page there. And I'll click, and it says hello world, right? So that was pretty easy. Here, let's refresh, and we'll do it again. Click, and I get hello world, right? So that was pretty easy. Let's take a look at this, and then we'll just end the video here, because this is just the introduction. We're going to link to jQuery, write a script tag that's making use of jQuery, right? So let's look at this a little more closely, right? When you use the jQuery function here, and you're selecting elements on the page, jQuery applies this, whatever it is, and this can be a lot of things. In my case, I'm adding a click action, right? But it could be a lot of different methods you'll see later, right? But it applies this to every instance of this thing it finds. So if I had more than one h1 here, they would all get the click action. So let's do that, right? So we got one h1 here, and then let's do this next one. We'll put some stars in there so it looks a little different. Okay, and then we'll refresh here, and when I click on this guy, you can see they both say hello world, right? Why is that? Because we created a selector that selects both h1s. So this means I can click on either h1. Let's give that a try, right? So earlier I clicked on this one, but what if I click on the stars? Well, same effect, right? So essentially, jQuery is pretty smart. It's like, hey, you know what? You don't have to loop through everything. I know that if you select this, I'm going to find all the h1s and then apply this click function to all of them, okay? The same thing applies here. So if I use the $sign here and I select the h1 tags, then this is going to be all the h1s on the page, and they all are going to set their HTML to hello world. Okay, so that's not too bad. What if though we didn't want to set hello world on all of them when you click the first one, like, or both of them, right? I want to only set hello world on the one that you clicked on. Okay, so inside of the function here, there's a keyword this. Okay, this is like self in Swift, if you're familiar with Swift, right? And some other languages use self, right? So this represents the current object. So it's really important to understand this. Okay, so this is a special keyword that represents the current object, and when we execute this function, the current object is the object that the function was applied to. So when we generate this collection of H1s, we apply a click to each one of the H1s. So each one of these guys gets an H1, or gets a click. Each one of the H1s, right? Let's make a couple more. Okay. And when we apply a function to each one of these guys, when you click on it, just that one gets the click event. So we're creating, essentially, we'd be creating 4 click events, one for each one of these H1s. And when you click on one of them, the function for the particular H1, like if you click this third one, the function assigned to that guy is run, and this represents the third H1. Okay? Right? So that means that we can actually select an object with this. So no quotation marks, okay? Right? So JavaScript is kind of funny. You can put a string in here, but you can put an object in there. You could put a number in there. You could leave it empty. It doesn't care, right? It can kind of, jQuery actually kind of looks at the type for this thing to figure out what to do. So it's not like Swift where it's a strongly typed language. It's kind of a loosely typed language. You can pretty much use any any type for this parameter, right? So so when we say this, now we're saying, hey, only apply the HTML to the element that matches this, right? And that's going to only be one of the H1s. So if I change the code here to be $this.html, then only the one you click on will get the hello world text. Let's give it a try. So we'll save it. We'll go back to the browser here, and there's my 4 H1s, right? And if I click on this one, it gets hello world. If I click on the top one, it's hello world, right? So anyway, that's a quick example of jQuery and some of the basic features of it, and I think it's pretty good. So if you're just beginning, learn to use basic JavaScript, and then everything you did with your basic JavaScript, you can use jQuery to kind of help you out and get a little bit more done faster by writing less code. Okay, so thanks a lot for watching, and I hope that this is useful information.